Good evening. This is probably one of the funnest reports. Last time we met, Steve did the facilities update, and he got to show you all of these wonderful pictures of walls and oil tanks, and it was just a lovely narration. And tonight we're going to do something very exciting, pictures of people. So we're excited to talk about the opening of schools for the 22-23 school year. Lots of exciting things to report, so I hope you enjoy. I'll start off by talking about our new teacher orientation. This year we had a 2-day in-person new teacher orientation for new teachers, a counselor, a psychologist, permanent subs, and teaching assistants. So the day on Monday, August 29th, started with a convocation and intro done by myself. And we talked about two of the words that I actually wrote about in the district newsletter for the summer. When we had met, they asked us what we thought the special sauce was for Pleasantville, if you can remember. And so I brought my two items not only to the summer district newsletter, but also to this new group of employees in the district. And we spoke about what it means in Pleasantville to be child-centered and provide for unique opportunities. And we talked about how in their different roles, they're actually going to be catalysts and be able to, actualize both child-centered and unique opportunities for our students. So it was a lovely first opening session. And then, as I spoke about in our last board meeting, the highlight of the event, and you can see us all on the bus, was the bus tour with Mr. Fondy. He definitely has wonderful comments and reviews from the feedback on what he could do, as I had said last time, as a side job. So they all agreed. And I spoke to you guys also about the exiting of the bus because we couldn't get close enough to the Jacob Burns. So that picture on the far left is actually the whole group in front of the Jacob Burns Center. So we also had several learning and practical tech sessions done by Dr. Faggio. Dr. Bala worked with the staff on differentiated instruction, and Dr. Chigares provided foundational learning on implicit bias. This was the training on implicit bias that we had done last year for all of our staff members. So he provided it at New Teacher. He also did another session during our superintendent's conference days for anyone who wasn't at the New Teacher. So we made sure that all of our staff members new to the district have this very important foundational learning on implicit bias. In addition to the learning experiences, the participants spent time with their union, and they worked on getting their benefits set up. Lastly, they spent the afternoon of the second day in their buildings working with the curriculum coordinators, who are also their mentors, along with the building level administration. So some real hands-on, practical, some philosophical, some very important, where to get lunch and Starbucks in town. People talked about how nice it was to see where our students are playing sports. We went to the different fields to see where just the kids are and kind of get a sense for that environment. Again, when you talk about being child-centered, I think a lot of what we set up for these 2 days really allowed our new staff to get a sense of what that looks like for our students. So we had a feedback form from them, and we had 12 respondents who almost every single comment was positive. And on each session, one of the questions we asked was, should we do this again next year? And almost every time it was yes. So again, we work in the spirit of continuous improvement. The feedback will be provided to the presenters so that we can make any adjustments moving forward for next year. So that same week, after we had Monday and Tuesday of new teacher orientation, we had 3 days of superintendent's conference days. So Wednesday, August 31st, we started off with all of our staff in person in the auditorium. There was great energy. There was a lot of excitement. Everyone was really happy to be together again, and really just fed off just a lot of positivity. We had a great welcome back theme, talking about the importance of relationships and how important they are. All kinds of relationships with ourselves, relationships with our colleagues, relationships with our students, relationships with the community, and really that it's a time to always remember that one of the things that makes Pleasantville so important is that we do build those relationships, and that is the expectation that we continue to do that, because that really allows us to do the tremendous work that we do here with our students. So we talked about relationships, we welcomed all of our new staff, and we had 3 25-year service award recipients. So we have Edwin Venegas, he is the head custodian at the high school, and the middle is Lizbeth Sebring, she's a teacher at BRS, and on the right is Joyce Connell, she is the director of guidance up at the high school. So they won their awards, and you can tell by the other 2 pictures we were engaged in a lot of deep learning. So after the morning of doing the welcomes and the 25 years, we spent some time working on a breathing exercise which reinforced the value of self-care and wellness, again, for all of us as individuals and as instructors and in all of our roles in the district. I presented the district goal of safety to the entire faculty and staff and provided an overview of the rationale and some of the ideas for quarterly benchmarks, and some of the highlights that I thought that they should be aware of, some of the much more visible things that they're going to see in terms of differences from last year. And lastly, on Wednesday, we had several schools had PTA-sponsored lunch, which was very generous and very much appreciated by the staff. So thank you very much to the PTAs that did that. So again, everybody was just really happy to be in person, a lot of positive energy in the room. Thursday, our faculty and staff spent time in the buildings. Some buildings took the opportunity on that day. Some of them waited until their first faculty meeting to roll out their goals and what that was going to look like in terms of the year. They did our procedural things such as safety protocols, introduced people again, and just kind of went into a little bit more depth with their colleagues on Thursday in the buildings. And lastly, on Friday morning, we did sort of a round robin rotation. We tried to cover some of our annual mandatory training that we had typically done in the past through videos, asynchronous videos. We tried to put some of those in person this year, just to try something different, have a little bit more interaction. Some of the timelines that were required in the videos when we were looking at them in the admin team over the summer, we just felt like some of them were due more time and some of them were due less time. And then always in person, you have that ability for interaction with the presenter who were experts in their areas. And then we finished the day on Friday in the buildings. So overall, very positive and very productive start with the staff in our 3 conference days. So I will turn it over to Ms. Hunger, our BRS principal, who has the pleasure of talking about kindergarten. But before she goes, I just have to tell you this one story about my friend over here, Jack, in the top left. So I happened to be at BRS, and it happened to be one of the 3 conference days, I think, when they were coming in and getting settled into kindergarten. And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. And my friend Jack, he brought Miss C a bunch of flowers. But the best part was not just the smile on both of their faces when he gave her the flowers, but what he said to her, which was, so I have to preface this, she does registration over there at BRS. And Jack, my little kindergarten friend, says, "Thanks for getting me in." It was the best line I had probably in all those 3 days. So I'll let Miss Hunger do the rest of the kindergarten, but I had to share that that little story about that top left-hand picture. So come on up.
Thanks for hooking me up.
Who says that in kindergarten? Get me in.
It's a great story to start off with and to start the year off with. We began at BRS even before the kids came in we spoke a lot about firsts, and that one of the gifts of being an educator is every year we have a first, and every year the kids come in and they have a first. And there are some firsts in life that are just a little more special than other firsts, and kindergarten is absolutely one of them. And this year was no exception. We had our kindergartners come in. They kind of get that special orientation on the first day of school after everyone else is settled in. And it was wonderful to welcome our parents back into the classrooms. We heard kids singing songs. They were gathering on rugs. They were exploring with their families, learning all about their classroom and their new environment. And then they came back for their official first day. And something that we do that's a little bit unique is we give them a delayed start for a couple days, because walking into school with 500 or 400 some other kids can be really overwhelming when you're having a lot of emotions yourself as you're entering this new space. So they came in a little bit later, but it gave the parents an opportunity to have that special goodbye, a special hug, whatever your routine is in the morning. But the kids came up. You see them over there. We're gathered on the rug, which is really special to us, to have those back into our classrooms. Kids are back in groups. They're learning together. But it was a wonderful start to kindergarten. And as our first day of BRS rolled out, kind of the running joke in the school as we were reflecting on the year, we remembered back to last year, and it was Michael and my first year together as a team, and we were like ready to go, and then school was 2 hours delayed, and there was like this big weather event. And we're like, well, it just, like, it has to be better than that. Like, we're gonna open on time. And then it hadn't rained all summer, and for 2 days just was this torrential downpour. But it made for some really good laughs before the kids came in the building. For anybody who's been at the arrivals at BRS, we are lined up pretty deep, opening some car doors in the morning. And we had some people showing off their new rain boots. So like, I got smart over the summer, and I'm back, and I will not have wet feet again. And they were really proud to show those off. But you see there, we had 2 kids walking in. People were gathered under umbrellas, but with a big smile welcoming them back. Our opening days of school are all about community building and making sure that students feel comfortable in their classroom community, comfortable in their new grades, that they know their school, they know their friends, and they get to know each other and know their teachers. And so you'll see down on the bottom left, that is Miss Eustace in the green dress. But we welcomed our students back into our cafeteria. And part of welcoming them back, and we always go over spaces every year, was really taking them through the lunch line. For our students, it had been a number of years, and for many of our students, it was their first experience of walking through, really getting to pick out lunch for themselves. And it was met with a lot of excitement along the way. You see our kids, they are in groups. We have like first day headbands. Every day it's a new first. First day of first grade, first day of second grade, but really focused around that team building. We're in the halls, we gather, you see your new friends, there's that wave, and there's just such a special feel those first few days. So it was a really wonderful opening.
I hear you have they have student ID cards now.
We do. So we are trying something new. Every student has a unique ID.
Yes.
And right now it is with adult support, but we have faith that they will be able to do this in no time and memorize their own code. But they feel like really big kids. It's a very big kid thing to do of like, I have this special number.
Right.
It doesn't belong to anybody else, and I'm the one responsible for it. So it was a lot of firsts, a lot of excitement, and just a big thank you to our custodial team and our teachers for the work that went into setting up the classrooms. The kids came in and they were wowed at what they saw, and there was a lot of work behind the scenes that went into setting it up. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mara to introduce the middle school.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like Ms. Hunger, the first few days of school are about community building. So the final piece of our comprehensive transition plan for incoming 5th graders is the student orientation. And what a beautiful day that we had for that student orientation. So thank you to the 5th grade team and the parents. It was awesome. We had some 8th grade helpers who led some tours and showed our students how to open their locks, which we all know is a rite of passage for grade 5. Students brought in their school supplies. They were able to decorate lockers with their parent assistants. So it was a nice way to build a community. You can see Mrs. Plouffe in that top middle picture leading some tours. We have a picture of our 5th grade staff on the top right. And I'm welcoming the students on the bottom left and top left in those pictures, which is great. We haven't been able to do that in a long time, and that really pays dividends throughout the year when you can get everybody together and create that personal relationship. As Dr. Desai mentioned, we do have an incredible partnership with our PTAs who treated us to Walter's hot dog truck. We had a DJ out there. So it was a really, really nice event, and the kids and the families really appreciated it. And I think the kids really need that to get into the building before day one to kind of take that level of anxiety down a little bit. PTA also provided us with a fabulous lunch as a staff, where we met as a faculty. We introduced new faculty members during the first few days and cultivate the positive culture. Again, lower left-hand corner is a town meeting type of atmosphere. We do that for all 4 grade levels at the start of the school year. Again, something we haven't been able to do. They've been hearing my voice for the last couple of years over the PA when I need to address the whole school. Now I get them outside, go over expectations, talk about their personal goals. The theme of goals really shined through for us this year. Ask for some brave volunteers. Let's talk about your goals. What are your goals? They have academic goals, social goals. It's awesome, and that creates a really, really positive culture for us. And I talk about my goals as the principal of the building, and teachers talked about their goals. So it was really, really nice. Clear expectations, everyone hears the same thing, and again, you make that personal connection. Teacher time was also a part of our first few days of school, meeting with guidance counselors, talking about students, setting up their classrooms. Teachers had time allocated towards our wildly important goal, and time for teachers to share how they're building relationships and creating a baseline at the beginning of the school year, something that we'll talk about in future board meetings, but you can't differentiate if you don't have a baseline. So how do you get to know your students? What are their fears? What are their learning styles? What are some things that they'd like to see throughout the school year that would help them learn as individuals? So creating that baseline and creating relationships is really important. That's something that we also talked about at our first few days, and something teachers are sharing with one another right now. So it's a critical first step. It was the vibes that we had on the first few days were really, really special, and I really thank everyone for being a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll pass it to Mr. Palumbo. Thank you.
Good evening. So part of what makes working in education so exciting is that new start that you get every fall when the school doors open. We've had a tremendous beginning to the school year here at Pleasantville High School. Before the year even started, we welcomed students from Germany, the UK, Guatemala, Peru. Dr. Desai will share some enrollment information, at a point during this presentation, and you'll see that, we've got new students here in the building, and they are wonderful. They're making their transition. In an effort to assist with that transition, for our students who are new to the district and our students who are new to the 9th grade, we had a orientation program, a lot like we did at the middle school, before the school year started. That involved some team building activities with their classmates. They get to visit their classrooms and meet with their teachers, run through their schedule, get to their locker. There was a great lunch that we had for them. And our 11th and 12th grade students facilitated a lot of that work. Thanks in part to our partnership with Pleasantville Strong, who provided our students with leadership training during the final months of the school year last year. So it was a tremendous program. This year we've got our building goal around communication, which we'll share a little bit about, in I think one of our next board meetings. So we did a lot of work together as a team, the entire faculty right in here, around what that looks like, creating a future-ready environment for all of our students. Once we welcome students back, Joanne Wallace coordinated a book tasting event, here in the library. Students were invited to come in and, examine a number of different texts, engage with their friends, do some reading. It was really a great event. I really thank Joanne for all of that work. We've also had the kickoff to our athletic season. So the girls and the boys are out there competing during the week and on the weekends. Our fall drama, Plays for Progress, is kicking off this week. They had an interest meeting today. So they will be, doing some casting in the coming weeks. We're excited about that production, which will take place in November. Believe it or not, we are getting ready for an in-person back-to-school night, which will take place for the high school families on the 22nd. That's next Thursday at 7 p.m. We used to begin the auditorium with a talk from me, Folks can access me all years. It's really unique to get this opportunity to access the teachers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pushing out a video with that type of introduction that folks can watch beforehand, and we'll be starting out the evening in classrooms for first period. In my weekly update this Friday, there will be detailed information about the schedule of that event, some resources. We're going to invite community organizations downstairs to be set up to connect with families. It'll really be a nice event, and I'm looking forward to having our faculty and parents and guardians, the adults that kids live with, connect to talk about all the exciting things that are happening here in school. And then, of course, this year, thank you so much to the board and the community for the support of all of our new courses that we're able to offer. We're offering new courses in computer science. We've quadrupled our enrollment in AP research and seminar, which we're very excited about. And it's just a great atmosphere. So thrilled to be working with the students again, to be connected the way that we are, and it's a blessing. So thank you so much for all of your support, and I'm looking forward to an outstanding year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all three of you. I wanted to just review where we are, as Mr. Palumbo said, in terms of our student enrollments. This is a decade in review in terms of a snapshot of our enrollment data, as I said, for the past 10 school years. I just want to make a note that you can see that our last bar are 22, 23 with some green stars next to it to just try to draw your attention to it. All of the other data points are as of Beds Day, which is the first Wednesday of October. So basically, in terms of state ed reporting, your Beds date is really important. It's your snapshot, and it's consistent year over year with, if you were to count every kid currently enrolled in your district on that day, that's your enrollment number. So that's the case from the 12-13 school year down to the 21-22, and that is why this year is grayed out, because we have not actually met Beds Day yet. So the data, could change, and I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that that was the date. I think it was of last Thursday, the 8th, when I asked for our current enrollment numbers. So of note, it's unofficial because we still have a lot of different things going on. We still have students registering for school, and that could happen all year long, but typically the month of September is very busy for people coming in and out of the district. So some people that are not attending and we're like, what's going on? They're not coming. They may have transferred, they didn't fill out all the paperwork, so we haven't officially taken them off our enrollment yet. So there's a lot of activity that happens in the month of September, which is why Beds Date is the first Wednesday in October. So this is typical for all schools and all school districts, that September is a pretty busy month. So when you take a look, if you take a look at these numbers, the total enrollment is on top of each bar, and then it works from the way south to north in terms of the BRS bar, and then the next green bar is the middle school, and then the top green bar is the high school data. So I'm going to speak in general terms to the district-wide data. In 12-13, we had 1,766 students enrolled on Beds Day. And you can see that the first couple of years of this decade were kind of in or around the same, and then we hit this mark from 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, and 19, 20. Those 4 years, we remain almost exactly steady in terms of having very close to 1,700 students. And then we see a change in the 2021 school year with a drop down to 1,635. Last year we were at 1,605. This year right now we're at 1,634. Again, not exactly sure exactly where we're going to land in this year. We'll be on or close to this number, give or take a few students. So an interesting trend. It doesn't consistently go down, but over the course of the decade, you can definitely see a change of about 132, well, not about, 132 students from the 12-13 to where we are at the point in time of the 8th of September with our number, which is about a 7.5% decrease in our total enrollment. So that is where we are. You can see that there is some fluctuation for several different reasons at the middle school and at the high school. We have different cohort sizes, and when you take a look at some of our programs, we do have students that come in. So this includes all of the students that we educate in our district buildings, again, on Beds Day. So you'll see some fluctuation. We have different cohort sizes. Our cohorts range anywhere from like 100 students to upwards of 150, and they're not all consistent. So this year's current 9th grade, last year's 8th grade happens to be a bigger cohort. And 20 or 30 kids makes a big difference in a district our size and in our schools in terms of the numbers and the showing of where they are and the changes. So this is our student enrollment over the past decade in terms of where we are. Obviously, we operated at 1,766. We operated at 1,605 last year. We can operate at any one of these numbers, and the community is very well aware that we have this space. We have staff. We are always making staffing adjustments and changes to meet student needs. Again, that goes back to the unique opportunities and our child-centered approach that we use. So this is the overall decade in review of total enrollment for our district.
That's interesting.
May I ask you a question?
Please.
Do these numbers include tuition students as well?
Yes, so our, so again, this is enrollment data on, this is everyone that we educate
So it's not
in
just the
our
students
buildings
in our
and at
district.
the lab school, right? So these are, this is who we're responsible for educating in our district. So it doesn't include other numbers such as our out-of-district placements, or, you know, we are responsible for preschool special education. We have oversight over that. It doesn't include those students. So it doesn't include like the total amount of students that our district is responsible for,
Who's in-
including homeschooled students that, you know, we're required to educate. So it doesn't encompass the full scope of all of the students that we are committed to providing
Right.
an education for. These are the bodies in our buildings.
Thank you.
So yes, it does include
It's interesting.
our tuition students that come in.
It's interesting. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Let me just. One of the other trends that I wanted to point out was, so if the total change, right, I said was 132, and you look at our number from 2021 for district-wide enrollment and the past 3 years, this year included, they're pretty similar and equal about 60 students. So like about 50% of our decrease is just from these past 3 years alone. I just thought that was an interesting way to look at it, like that. I don't know what happened or if there was something that happened. So I just, you know, I thought that was like an interesting data point that, you know, it was like this slow, steady, and then, you know, 50% of the decline is in the past 3 years. So, so that's our enrollment data.
And that's in the middle school. It looks like the middle school level has gone, right? Because like 523, 548, 530, then it dips way down into the fours.
Yep.
Whereas the high school is more consistent.
And so again, you know, we have different, obviously, you know, our middle school is 4 grades as
Right.
opposed to 3 or a junior high school model with 4 grades. And I think it's also interesting in terms of like local opportunities for where students might be interested. And I think it does speak to a little bit about the time in a child's life. And I say this with all the love in my heart as a parent of a 13 and a 12-year-old. And I said this to the middle school staff. You know, it is a challenging time developmentally for our children. And I don't know if there's any nexus between that piece or it's just cohort pieces in terms of the middle school decline in terms of sizes and cohorts. So I just want to reiterate a couple of themes that we heard, you know, throughout the presentation from my opening as well as from the three principals that, you know, spoke about this sense of renewed energy in our schools and in our district. And we also talked a little bit about goals and how we're using goals differently this year. I think a reason that we can is because we're capitalizing on this energy. We were so focused for so long on trying to maintain a school system and an instructional program when we were under this constant evolution and changing of the rules of the game for how we could and how we should do that. And we can actually focus now and use this energy on creating goals and plans for achieving goals and energy towards actually accomplishing these things. And I think it's going to be a tremendous year that we really capitalize on this sense of, when I came here and I did a lot of introductory work and talked to PTAs and talked to faculty and staff members and talked to board members, you know, everyone in Pleasantville told me about this sense of community and really having this renewed focus on community and the sense of community, and it's what brings us together, and it's through building relationships that we can capitalize on our sense of community and really building a school year ahead for our staff and our faculty, as well as our students and their families, on just this renewed energy and this renewed focus on setting and achieving goals. And it's just a wonderful time for our district. I'm so excited to be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you.